Hello. Today we are all Canvanauts. Yes.
Yes.
I'm Damian Slattery with Fast Company. It's a thrill to be here. This is not just a panel. This is a love fest. I have known and worked with this gentleman, Chris Stone, going back 30 years. Dawn Reese and I go back 20 years.
Yes.
And Brandon and I are working on our first decade still. They are all incredible creators, marketers, and have great perspective on this topic, the visual economy. And we got to give it to Canva for creating this incredible visual experience that's not just thought leadership, but every time you turn, it's a different image in your head. So, I would love to know, Chris, with the idea that there's this stat I use when I talk about storytelling, that our brains process images over words 60 times faster. Talk to us, talk to our friends here about the visual economy as you live it and work it in the recent years of your career.
You stole that stat from me, which I was going to steal from you. But yeah, I mean, the ability of visuals to tell a story, and I heard somebody in one of the panels this morning mention, you know, we only have milliseconds to really capture the attention of a consumer. And then, given that, you know, the speed with which we process visuals, you just put you at a much greater advantage to leverage visual storytelling. And this group here has been talking a lot about like visual storytelling as a tool, especially as technologies change and the buy-in you get into those technologies. I think I found that they're much greater with visual storytelling than they are with, say, text-based storytelling. And we'll get into this at like greater length down the road, but like before we even get into like the end results of what you can produce with new technologies and visual storytelling, it's like there's a very basic premise that we've talked a lot about today, is like we're kind of jumping from two. Was I cut off? Was I cut off? Okay. I think we spend a lot of time talking about AI, for example, from the endpoint standpoint. Like we're kind of at the early stages of AI, and then the endpoint of like the results, the big headlines that we see. Like yesterday, for example, 3 biggest headlines that I saw in the course of the day were all around AI. The NVIDIA earnings, the Scarlett Johansson story, and News Corp entering into a deal with OpenAI for $250 million. What we're not spending a lot of time on is really like education and training around AI. Before we can get that point to realize kind of the full capabilities of AI, in the space that I work in, a newsroom, you know, we have to get to that place where we're just agreeing on its value and understanding it, the very most basic understanding of what AI does and what it can do for our storytelling, because it can do a lot.
Dawn, at IPG Mediabrands, 130 countries, 13,000 employees, all focused on content creation for brands. Where does the visual economy, the visual comms of today play its primary role?
It's hugely important in what we do every day, quite frankly. Brands are struggling with keeping up with the veracity of content that they have to create across all of their channels, from pure play, traditional media, all the way through social and beyond, right? And so we have the task to keep up with that. And so when we think about the tools that we use from an AI perspective, it's all around how can we scale and create content at the speed of which consumers are consuming it, because brands want to continue to have a conversation with their audiences to foster brand love, et cetera. And so without this technology and these capabilities, it just slows us down from that ability to do it at scale.
Brandon, at Journey, you are makers and creators of immersive experiences, leveraging the latest technologies. Where and how do you find the path to the visual that resonates, engages, is lasting, and is a story?
Yeah, I mean, for us, Journey came together a couple of years ago. We acquired and rolled up 5 different agencies because we had this realization that the visual economy was kind of converging, not just legacy visual economy, but physical visual economy, digital visual economy, immersive, virtual, and now AI kind of influenced. And so we rolled all these companies up together, and we're doing what we now call this multi-dimensional experience. And it's all based in the visual. And for us, some of the agencies that are in our business are 20 years old. So they've been working on these like beautiful visual experiential moments for brands and organizations for 20 years. And now what we're doing with our clients is we're saying, all right, well, we have to look at AI. Number one, how can we be creating things for our partners and clients with AI to create for them? And at the same time, how are we internally self-disrupting our own business with these tools? Because we have a lot of legacy creators in our organization that are excited about it, but others who are a little scared of it. And so we're introducing tools to our clients and to our own team to say, hey, like we all have to get on the same page. We were talking yesterday, genie's out of the bottle a little bit, and we've got to get really comfortable with getting comfortable with these tools and using them for the future of this kind of multi-dimensional AI-powered visual economy.
Last week at a conference in New York, an agency head, David Jones of Brand Tech and formerly Havas, said if the mobile phone was made everyone a creator, then AI makes everyone an entire ad agency. Dawn, comment, please.
You're not making this easy for me, are you? There is some, I can see why that statement will be made, for sure, because, these tools and all of these creators in this room have the power to create campaigns in a very seamless way. And, being on that side of the, marketing business for brands, we see the power of it, right? Brands also want to be able to capitalize on cultural moments at the speed in which they're happening, right? And so if they see something happening in culture, long gone are the days where you can hire a production crew, get scripts written, you don't have time to do all of that, right? And so you want to capitalize on that moment, speak to it through the lens of your brand, and get it out into the marketplace as soon as possible. And so, anyone that has this technology can do that. And we as an industry, we embrace it, right? But there's still a level of, moderation and protection of a brand's, history and things like that we humans still have to be a part of. But there's no denying that the tools allow us to move faster and that anyone with this technology can create beautiful work.
Thanks, Dawn. Chris, you talked about keeping the human present while we explore, experiment, and accelerate using these tools. And Brandon countered how the tools will empower us to almost be more human, more personalized, and drive engagement. Just talk a little bit about how you get to a place where you feel good as a journalist using these tools.
Yeah, I've spent my entire career in editorial storytelling and most of that career in sports, which is built around emotional storytelling, right? You see, I was the editor of Sports Illustrated for several years, and one of the great joys of the job was the cover, picking the cover every week. And that's visual storytelling at its peak, right? So in that cover, I felt like a great cover produced an emotional response. You felt it deep in you. And when I look at a lot of what AI produces, and this isn't an anti-AI statement by any standpoint, I'm often very impressed. I'm often awed by what I see, but I don't know if I feel that same emotional connection in me that I feel when I see that's something that's produced by humans. And to be clear, I don't think of humans and AI as being binary here. You know, behind great AI is human creativity, right? That's table stakes right there. But when I produce something, you know, when a newsroom produces something, especially in sports, you want to be able to deliver an emotional element that serves as a pillar of that storytelling. And I don't think that's, you know, particular to a newsroom or a sports department. I think especially in advertising, you want to be able to produce something that you felt it. You didn't just see it and feel dazzled by it. It's like an emotional dazzlement.
Brandon, if anyone out here today is exploring career change or a career path, how do they experiment? How do they learn how to be better as a storyteller, a story maker, a visual-led story creator? What should one do?
Yeah, I mean, by now.
And use that phrase that I like so much that you told me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be in there. But you know, by now everyone's heard the phrase. This is not the phrase you were asking for, but you know, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by someone using AI. And I think that like we're talking to the right crowd here. When I was watching the keynote this morning, every time Canva laid out a new button or tool that was AI powered, the crowd roared with excitement. This is not like a small group of elite media people who are scared that AI is going to come for their like very specific. This is a group of creators who maybe haven't had the time, resource, availability before to go out there and get what's in their mind out to the world. And what AI is doing is it's opening up the tent to everybody. Anybody who wants to be a creator, who has an idea, can now grab these tools and go out there and compete. And listen, good creatives are still going to make good creative. And unfortunately, bad creative is still going to get created and people aren't going to like it. And so for me, if you have an interest, number one is curiosity. And so just getting out there and putting your hands, we call it with clients, when we go to like Fortune 500 clients, we produce for them what we call an AI petting zoo, which is the phrase you liked. And so we'll lay out 20 different AI tools for people that maybe they've used ChatGPT for a total of 15 minutes. But we'll lay out 20 tools and we'll just get them into it, a half-day, full-day workshop, AI petting zoo. And you can see the synapses sparking in people's brains and just the eyes light up. Oh, I didn't realize I could do that. Wow, this could actually help me do this part of my job and that part of my job. If I didn't have to do this, I could spend more time in creative ideation sessions and strategizing and meeting with partners. And so these tools, if you have a curiosity about them, will open your mind up to new opportunities. And the only other thing I would say to counterbalance that is you need to have this delicate balance of, one, like checking our human ego, of like the AI can never make something as good as me. It can if you prompt it and you design it and you massage it and you put it through the right tools. But it's balancing this like human ego check with the confidence that a human should be editing and reviewing things and not just letting bad AI content into the world. So we are still the guardians of AI, of creative. We're also the guardians of AI, but we should use our curiosity to get out there and play and figure out how can we use these tools to our advantage to get more product and more creative into market to give ourselves a chance at more scale.
Thanks, Brandon. I feel like Canva could have named the learning lab over there the AI petting zoo.
Yeah.
Maybe, right?
Next year.
Dawn, one of Mediabrand's 5 core values listed on your website is collaboration through trust.
Yes.
That's all very human in a way, and yet you have to upskill 13,000 employees. How do those two things happen? How do you maintain that trust, grow collaboration, and explore AI as the means to visual-led story making?
So the collaboration and trust goes two ways. One, it's the brands that we serve, right? We get to work with some of the biggest brands in the whole world, and there is a trust between us and those brands that we are gonna steward their brand in the marketplace through content creation in a way that they can trust us to do that, right? And then most importantly is the community of all of us creators in the organization globally, because we are, a global organization. And so these tools allow us to do a whole host of things that free us up to be more creative and be more collaborative. So when you think of things like we do all this great work and we need to put it somewhere so that our colleagues in, Spain and Africa can access them in their language and leverage them, right? So we free up some of what we call some of like the mundane kind of day-to-day things so that we can be more creative and collaborative with creators, with brands, et cetera. So that's one way that we kind of leverage all these tools. But then also it allows us to move more efficiently through the kind of process of getting ad creatives, digital video content out in the world. So no longer do we have to worry about kind of tasks of like budgeting and like things that, as creators we don't love to do. We can kind of automate all of that so that we can focus on the more creative aspects of our job. So that's how we leverage these tools to foster that so that we can be freed up to do the stuff that we all really want to do, that gets us out of bed every day.
That's great. I spent years as a reporter at Sports Illustrated with Chris, and now I've spent years in marketing, as I did with Dawn and collaborate with Brandon. I've always seen the efforts of marketing storytelling almost so aligned and akin to what good journalists do. We really have to be quality-driven storytellers. That's fact-checking, that's credibility, and so Chris and Dawn, just for a moment, share some of those pillars that you think will maybe get tested, that you have to keep an eye on as the tools accelerate and raise concerns, and how you might manage that for a brand and for an audience reading a piece of journalism or consuming it.
Sure. The word trust has been used a few times here, and you have to be able to talk about AI before you implement AI. And one, it's a little bit hard to talk about AI because we all have such a limited understanding of it. Well, this crowd maybe, it's less limited. But in the spaces that I've worked, there's a limited understanding of AI and therefore kind of a limited trust of not just AI, but any tools, any storytelling tool, new storytelling tool. So if we can talk about it and have an honest conversation about it and get to a place where we believe these tools can help us do our jobs better, faster, and in a more rewarding way. Okay, we've cleared the first hurdle, but it's only the first hurdle, And but if we can't talk about it, there are a lot of places where people can't even begin the conversation about SI because the feeling is that it's here to replace you. And you hear this over and over again, and it's not particular to the media industry. But I have also found that the better the tools, the better the buy-in you're going to get. I find that people, especially in like data viz spaces, have a much greater trust and curiosity and buy-in to SI, and in kind of the more text-based spaces, just because the tools just aren't as advanced. Right now the tools are often quite crude and aren't delivering the same tools that you're getting in visual storytelling. So to produce those kind of great, spectacular, pieces of journalism, especially in the visual space, we really have to get to a place where we can talk about it.
Dawn, please.
So I would say from a marketer's perspective, it's finding those stories that really speak for what the brand stands for, and that's what's going to resonate with consumers. that takes a human lens and a human touch to really be able to tell those stories in a way that's compelling, that consumers are going to want to, learn more about the brand, and then most, importantly, actually spend their hard-earned money with that brand. And so I think that's one thing that is a watch out, because these tools allow us to move so fast and so prolifically from a content creation perspective. But in order to find human stories that resonate, that make you want to engage with a brand, learn to love a brand, tell a friend about a brand, tell your family about a brand, that requires a human touch. And that's what we keep front of mind all the time.
Brandon and Dawn, do you think this era of tightening budgets across Hollywood, the agency world, the story-making world, is that going to increase the adoption? And is that actually a good thing, where in lean times you find new ways to do more? Brandon, maybe start.
I mean, there's a lot of data behind this. During economic downturns, some of the most exciting companies are always created. And so I think it was like during the 2008 downturn, that was like Uber, Airbnb, that whole last wave of democratized experiences. And then right now, last year, we just went through this massive wave where tens of thousands of some of the most smart creatives and technologists in the world were laid off by Fortune 50 tech companies. And so we have this convergence of really incredible tools meeting really incredible talent in the free market. And I think that's going to create this wave of really exciting products and companies on its own. For big Fortune 500 companies, there is going to be this ability of, maybe our margins are down, or we had a bad couple of quarters, and we're going to utilize these tools to improve efficiencies, and that allows us to keep all of our staff and augment our staff. We always say to our clients who are in that Fortune 500 class, we say, what if I could show up tomorrow with 5 busloads of additional staff? Do you have the budget to hire those people today? No, our budgets are really tight. Well, what if we could bring those people to support your current staff, and it's just AI and it only costs a couple subscription fees? That's great. Our team was underwater right now. We would love to have those tools. So it's going to be a pressure valve release, I think, for big companies. But what I'm most excited for is the small, medium-sized business individual creators who right now are definitely underwater trying to create and produce. I was sitting next to a woman earlier today who was very stressed out. She was finishing 2 different websites, the deadlines this week. She doesn't have time to do the business calls. So for all the small, medium creators and business people, if we can use these tools to expedite productivity in our creative process, it will free up time for us to focus on the business. And the key is going to be that you as a creator, individual business person, or a small business actually takes that productivity and that time saving and does reposition it into your business. Because you could be quicker at creating a creative asset and then go scroll Instagram for 2 hours, but maybe you should take that time to go spin up new client calls or go do meetings. So I think it will present the opportunity for better business productivity. It's a matter of who's going to do that ethically and who's going to actually do it.
Dawn, how are you experiencing?
I couldn't agree more. We see it same in our business. This allows, especially the creatives, to automate so much of that work so that they can spend more time doing the creative aspect. Because we've all probably done those tests where we've tried to write a script in AI. It kind of gets you started, but you still have to finesse it and put your voice in there. And so we kind of coined it at Mediabrands that it's just your jumping off point, right? But you still have to make it your own and really deliver. And so we like to think of these tools as being able to allow us to, automate and make more efficient the things that we don't love to do so we can focus on the things that we want to do.
Last week, I was in England on vacation in this beautiful part of England called the Lake District, and we took our family to the farmhouse where Beatrix Potter had created much, if not all, of her best work. And the curators had laid out her little books on the windowsills and on the bureaus where the actual view or image is still there that inspired her stories. And I thought about being here when I was there a little bit. And that visual inspiration, the simplicity that she brought such beauty to, that is incomparable. And then I stepped outside. It was raining, of course, and there was a puddle, and there were 2 ducks in it. Puddle ducks, right? Jemima, puddle ducks. What is one image from your life or career, Chris, that sticks with you as kind of a symbol of visual storytelling?
It's actually a pretty modern image. It's in 2015, American Pharoah won the Triple Crown. And to complete the Triple Crown, the horse had a win at the Belmont. And the photo is at the finish line of the horse crossing the finish.
The photo that you used for the cover.
That we used for the cover, and the reason we used it for a cover was because it told the perfect story of where we were in 2015, right? It was a picture, actually, that the photographer didn't even see the finish. He was behind a bunch of people who had their cameras raised, which blocked his view of the finish line. And he had like the selfie stick, right? That he stuck up and just kept shooting and shooting and shooting. And what he captured there was not only the horse crossing the finish line, but everybody in the stands with their phones up absorbed more by capturing the image on their phone than actually seeing the actual finish. And I think that told 2 things about the place where we stand, and it's a great metaphor for visual storytelling in the 21st century. Is on the one hand, you have this perfect, raw, unadulterated moment of somebody making history in a beautiful image, and at the same time, the story being told by all the people holding up their phones, somewhat distracted and detached. You know, it was a story of technology meeting art. You know, it's like the Reese's peanut butter cup in a way, but, you know, chocolate, peanut butter. But I think that, to me, was my Puddle Ducks moment.
That was when we published Sports Illustrated as a magazine 48 times a year. Now it's 12. Anyway, sorry, Chris. Dawn, what image stands out for you?
So mine's also a fairly recent image. I'm a New Yorker, but I now live here in Los Angeles. And I was in New York for work, and I brought my son, and I took him to Brooklyn, where he was born, and we raised him till we moved here. And we were driving, and I don't know if anyone here is from Brooklyn or saw the exhibit for Jay-Z at the Brooklyn Public Library, but to be driving and see his lyrics on the library was such a amazing and shocking and curious moment, because the juxtaposition of this beautiful, old, iconic library with a hip-hop icon's lyrics for the whole world to see, and then you go into the exhibit and see how amongst catalogs of history and book, like, there is all of this pop culture, and it was just a very inspiring moment. And being there with my son, who has very different musical tastes than his mom, but I'm trying to embrace it, to be able to talk to him about what this meant and how historic it was that this would be on the Brooklyn Library is something that continues to inspire me.
Did you take a picture?
I did take a picture.
Oh, good.
Many pictures.
Brandon.
So there's a project that we did a few years ago, working with Pottermore Publishing, to take some of the Harry Potter books and Quidditch Through the Ages and a couple of J.K. Rowling's, like, you know, smaller, lesser-known books, and to turn them into interactive gaming experiences on, like, voice devices, Google Assistant. And so it's a screen device. And so we were tasked with creating interactive versions of this, like, incredible canon of not just literature, but there's so much visual that's so emotionally connected to so many people, I'm sure, in this audience and around the world. And we started going through these books And some of the original books, the little sketches inside the book that are made into publishing were sketched by J.K. Rowling. And then you go into some of the later editions, and there are these like amazing works of art. And then we were tasked with making our own versions of different beasts from like Fantastic Beasts and you know where to find them. And we had such a painstaking, we're talking about AI facilitating like a super fast process. But this was an example where we needed to really take our time to really be mindful and respectful of this like incredible canon of content and to make these new visuals that were going to go into that catalog. And to me, it was like such a beautiful process, kind of unpacking everything, working with the artists, really trying to map it out, getting approvals from Pottermore Publishing. So I just think about these like images that we made and we animated them and just the whole process of kind of reflecting on and respecting these visuals that were created before us, trying to create new content that fit in. If we were doing that project today, maybe we would have used AI for like animatics and kind of some of the early stage. But that was a very like old school, very slow process because we wanted to make sure that we got it right. And to me, that's a little bit of the juxtaposition of we've got to be careful while we're moving into these new spaces.
So I just want to say thank you to my beautiful friends, my human friends right here. And I would urge you to be curious, bold, brave, to explore, to be respectful of the audience, the brand, and lead with the visual. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.